Your goal is still the same. That basketball player's goal is still to get that ball in the hoop, right? Football player's goal is still to go to the end zone or the goal, depending on what football is yours. The reality is, though, that the way that you get there, so you can still be predictable in terms of what your brand is about. Your brand is still about scoring a three-pointer or a hoop or whatever you want to do, right? But how you get there can dictate how successful you are based on how predictable you are. In business, if we're doing the same things all the time, the same way, and it's all the same, how hard is it for our competition to be able to meet us? But the second piece of that is really understanding your purpose. And this is the hardest thing, I think, for entrepreneurs, because your purpose is not making money. That is not what differentiates you. What is your purpose in this world? Why does your business exist beyond making money? And then you have to be able to focus each one of your employees to be able to make decisions within that why, within that purpose.
Now, in the pre-show, I remember that we talked about being strategically unpredictable. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I have no idea what you're getting to when you said that. Yeah, I'm super interested about what that means because, again, we're business people here. I'm running a business. Yeah. I always say that branding is about consistency. Mm-hmm. And integrity as a leader has something to do about consistency. And when you're consistent, it also means that you're, in a way, predictable. Like they know what kind of Sean is coming in the door and what kind of Sean they're going to be dealing with for the day in terms of my people, in terms of my business. So what do you mean about being strategically unpredictable?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. It's something that can be confusing. You know, what we're not talking about is being willy-nilly crazy, because you do want to be consistent in terms of the brand that you deliver. Right. But like you said, you can become so predictable that you become vulnerable. So what this comes down to, and one of the things what I talk about in this chapter in the book is what's called the OODA loop. So it's OODA. It's an acronym, OODA, right? OODA. It stands for observe, orient, decide, act. OODA, OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. This was born from the military, where they were trying to come up with, how do we understand how fighter pilots make their decision process, and how do we win more fights in the air? And so what they began to understand is that everybody goes through this OODA loop. Every time we make a decision, we go through the OODA loop. But here's the trick. If we're going through the OODA loop, observe, we orient, we decide, we act. If something happens that disrupts us, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to re-observe, reorient, redecide, react. Are you a sports fan?
Before basketball, 100%.
Basketball. Okay. Well, let's talk about basketball. So you're a basketball player, right? The guy you're guarding is coming straight down the court, going right towards the basket. You're in the corner somewhere. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to figure out at what speed and what angle to run to intercept him.
Yeah.
Or her, right? Now, when you get up to that person, if they juke, if they dribble behind their back, if they fake or feint and move, that's when we start seeing those ankle breaking videos where people fall all over themselves, right? Yeah. Because what's happened is when you observe, you orient, you decide, you act, right? You've observed, you've oriented yourself, you decided, and then they move and everything changes. And your brain goes back to the beginning. It's too late for your body. It's already moving. It already has inertia and momentum, and you fall over, right? It's the same thing in any sport, football, whatever it is. If you're running in a straight line and you're predictable, you're easy to intercept. If you're moving around, your goal is still the same. That basketball player's goal is still to get that ball in the hoop, right? Football player's goal is still to go to the end zone or the goal, depending on what football is yours. The reality is, though, that the way that you get there, so you can still be predictable in terms of what your brand is about. Your brand is still about scoring a three-pointer or a hoop or whatever you want to do, right? But how you get there can dictate how successful you are based on how predictable you are. In business, if we're doing the same things all the time, the same way, and it's all the same, how hard is it for our competition to be able to meet us? But when we're strategically unpredictable, and so I talk about in the book how you can be that. One of the biggest ways you can do that. So you're the type of guy I can tell your next question is, well, how do we do that? Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that you can do is self-disruption, right? The best type of disruption is self-disruption. As an example, I use Netflix. Everybody knows that Netflix disrupted the movie rental business, right? And that's a big story about what they did to Blockbuster and all that, and Blockbuster's gone and all that. But to me, the bigger story with Netflix is what they've done since, because they did not stop. They could have stopped and just been this company that delivers DVDs through the mail, but they didn't. They moved to streaming, right? And then did they stop there? No, they didn't. They then moved to original content production, right? Where they're producing their own content. And did they stop there? No. Now they're getting into game development and gaming.
Wow.
Every time they do that, they force their competition to rethink what they're doing. The competition at first was like, okay, how do we deliver movies through the mail? And then the competition is like, wait, that's not the game anymore. Now we got to figure out how to do this streaming thing. Wait a minute. Now we got this figured out, and now we've got to figure out how to do our own content. The more that you force your competition to move by disrupting yourself before they can disrupt you, the best type of disruption is self-disruption. That is a concrete way that you can remain strategically unpredictable. You are not unpredictable in terms of what your goals are, but you're unpredictable in terms of how you get there, which forces your competition to slow their decision process down.
Let's put some parameters, because when you say disrupt yourself, that could easily go out of hand. That's how I'm imagining it to be. I mean, there are, like, entrepreneurs by definition. I see entrepreneurs as people who try to solve real world problems in their own way. It might be a new way, might be a way that's existing, but it's never been used before in a certain way to solve this kind of problem. People just copy businesses. I don't consider them entrepreneurs. I consider them business people. Right. So when you say entrepreneur and you talk about disruption, there has to be parameters, because they can't disrupt themselves in a way that's way out of hand. I know that Netflix, they started with mailing DVDs in the mail, then they went to streaming, but it still has to do with video all the way, and entertainment. Right. They even went so far as to say that our competition is not really other streaming platforms. Our competition is whatever else you want to do in your life that for you consider as entertainment. Could be wine, could be eating popcorn is our competitor, or it could be spending time with family at the dining table playing board games. Maybe that's why they're getting into gaming. So there is that kind of straight line of where they know they are in business. Yeah. And they disrupted their how, but their why is pretty much the same. Now, the question is, you're talking about disrupting yourself as a business. Yeah. What are the parameters that we should be looking at?
Yeah. So you sort of answered your own question along the way. So, the answer is you have to understand where your threats are coming from. So this all plays together. Everything I talk about plays together, right? So threat awareness, understanding where your threats can come from, feeds into your self-disruption, right? So you can see, Netflix is out there understanding their customers, understanding their industry, understanding technology, and understanding where are those threats potentially going to come from. Where you want to self-disrupt is you want to get to those threats before your competitors can, right? You want to understand that this is what could disrupt me down the road. Now, do I want to wait for somebody else to do it to me? Or do I want to do it to myself? Because either way, it's coming. Either way, it's coming. But one way I get to control it, and the other way I have to react. And you know what? As a sports fan, you know that action is always faster than reaction, right? Because of the OODA loop, right? So we have to build that understanding of where our threats are coming from, where the danger could come from, where our customers or our consumers or our vendors or employees are going to, and how do we get there first? And when that requires a disruption in the way we do business, when that says, you know what, we're Netflix, we deliver things through the mail. The future of consumption of media is online. Do we want to milk this delivery by mail thing as far as we can go and wait for somebody else to develop it and then try and catch up? Or do we want to take the lead and disrupt? and make everybody else figure it out along behind us, right? Where we get to set the gold standard, right? That's the difference. That's the parameter. The parameter is not just to disrupt for the sake of disruption. Strategic unpredictability requires us to understand our strategy, requires us to understand our purpose, like you said, and requires us to understand where the threats and the changes could come from so that we can get there first.
Wow. That's pretty tough. I mean, like as a business,
yeah,
pretty tough, but I could see the importance of it. I could see the importance of that.
Yeah, listen, all this stuff is tough, right? But what I can tell you is you can't let this be intimidating, right? Because at the end of the day, the place to start, the little nugget that will get you ahead of your competition is all based in this idea of awareness. All these things are built around building that awareness, building that understanding so that you process stimuli, you get to decisions faster, you slow your competition down, threats don't surprise you, you measure the right things. All these things play into building awareness. So if you just start with that nugget of awareness, like how can we build a little bit more awareness into our business? You can build everything from there. It doesn't, this is not an all or nothing type thing. Vigilance is about fighting that complacency every day, right? And building those processes. And it's not something that you go from 0 to 100, in a millisecond. It's something where just by thinking about it, just by understanding that you could be complacent, you're already fighting the battle.
And I guess, Len, time just flew by already. I couldn't believe it. And I've learned a lot. I think I'm super excited to read your book. And this podcast recording, I think I got the most value out of it, actually. I guess my last question is about comfort and complacency. Whereas we talked about you as an entrepreneur, when you get successful, you could become confident, overconfident. And there's a lot of time, as an entrepreneur, you just want to get to that point where the business is running on its own and you're working on the business rather than in the business. And comfort could be so attractive. What is the main difference between being comfortable that, I've done this, I'm here, finally, thank God, and being complacent? Is there a fine line in between what's the major differences and what's okay? Is it okay to be comfortable if it's not okay to be complacent?
It's a great question because it's okay to be comfortable, but you don't want to be comfortable to the point where you're overconfident, right? So, think about it this way, going out on a boat. You go out on a boat, you can feel comfortable being out on the boat and enjoying that, but also understand that the ocean or the body of water is a dangerous thing, right? And, when you get to the point where you're so comfortable that you're overconfident, that you start drinking and you leave your life jacket behind and you don't do the things that you need to do, that's when it becomes dangerous, right? So it doesn't mean that you can't be comfortable. Comfort is a great thing. Comfort is something that we all crave and we all deserve. We all deserve comfort. But what happens is when you build this into your life, you can be comfortable and vigilant at the same time, right? Because you have built in those protectors that make sure that you don't take comfort to the level of overconfidence where it obscures your vision of threats. So you can have a good time on the boat and still be aware of the fact that the ocean is a dangerous place. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. You can do them both. And that's kind of the goal in business, right? The goal in business is to enjoy yourself, enjoy your life, enjoy your success, but also understand that there are still threats out there, right?
Hey, Len, thanks so much for being here on the show, sharing your wisdom with us. If people want to get more from you, where's the best place to do that?
Yeah, so two things. Number one is just look me up on LinkedIn. I respond to everybody unless you're, just trying to sell me something crazy I don't need. But, it's just Len Herstein, LenHerstein. Just look me up on LinkedIn and reach out. The other thing is you can go to lenherstein.com. And that's where all the information on the book is. The book is called Be Vigilant: Strategies to Stop Complacency, Improve Performance, and Safeguard Success. It is a super easy read. That was one of the things that was important to me because I can't read complicated or difficult books. So I wrote the book The Way I Talk. When you read this book, if it doesn't sound like me, I want you to tell me, Sean. I want you to tell me that I'm not being it, because this book
is the next podcast.
when you read this book, it should sound like me. It should sound like me. And so which may be good or bad, I don't know, but it sounds like me. It's authentic. It's a quick and easy read, and you should get a lot out of it. It's available on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, wherever you buy your books or ebooks. But lenherstein.com, or just look me up on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Hey, Len, thanks so much for being here. We are better for it.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Sean. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Oh, hey, and since you're here, can you do me a favor? Can you hit on the subscribe button and hit the bell button and select all notifications so that whenever we have a new video, you're going to be the first one to know. Until then, keep leading.
The best way is to actually generate a lot of word of mouth about your business, about your product, about your service, because that's free. And that is very, very effective in the sense that when you get referred by someone to another person who might want to get your product or service, that is very powerful referral right there. And I know because my clients who are loyal to SEO Hacker and what we do and who have reaped the benefits of our work have been referring us.